Hi, everybody. So today looks a little different, and I'm not just trying to be festive and part of nature. Some of you may have heard that the western part of North Carolina was hit pretty hard by Hurricane Helene. Our little valley, the eye of the storm went right over us, which is terrifying to see on a map, but was the greatest blessing ever for our little town because it is quiet in the eye of the storm. And I've heard it described as we were like, I hate to use the word donut, but we were like the center of the donut surrounded by Hades. It is, I mean, destruction all around us. So if you are watching this, you are probably not in that area right now. But for those that are, our thoughts and prayers go with you, and I hope everybody watching will just remember those guys and see if there's anything we can do to help. So I still don't have internet in my house. That's my only minor hardship is I have to hike up to the top of this road, which is equivalent to 20 flights of steps each time. It was worth the hike because I had scheduled a talk today to catch up with Susan Boykin. And I know a lot of you will recognize and remember Susan because other than, I looked it up, I think Dr. Chafee and Dr. Berry, you are the next most popular viewed guest to have ever been on my channel. Welcome back,
Crazy.
Susan.
That's crazy. Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
So I know people are going to want to hear an update of what's happened in the past year. You look gorgeous, by the way. I'm excited to hear.
Well, thank you very much.
But for those few people out there who perhaps missed how you came to carnivore in the beginning of your story, just sort of tell them what got you started.
What got me started was a grief journey after my husband died and taking care of him and finding myself 150 pounds overweight and in really bad shape to the point where depression had set in. I didn't want to get off the couch. I didn't want to live. I just, my knees were about to have to be replaced, but I didn't care. I was set to die and go home. Life wasn't worth living. I just had a vision one day of my son taking care of me the way that we took care of his dad. And I didn't want that for him. We had just walked through that and it was horrible. It was horrific. And I was just like, Lord, I'll do anything. Don't let this happen. Don't let this be our story again. Do not let this be his story again. And God simply said, into my darkness, shined a light and said, I have a plan for that. I have a plan for that. And that's how it all began. And so I had a host of medical issues. I had horrible IBS and rosacea and allergies and inflammation and nerve pain and just the list went on and on and on. And I wasn't even going to worry about any of it because as far as I was concerned, not going to be here any longer. And that's where my sister kind of entered that journey and said she was going to go keto. And I said, well, I'll try that with you. And I felt like that's what God said to do. Did it for 5 months, lost probably 70 pounds, had great success really quickly, felt really great. And then she fell and broke her back. She wasn't able to continue. And so I kept going. I kept going. And then in my search for how to keep kind of keto harder, because I want to excel and do all the things, Kelly, just do all the things. And so I came across Dr. Barry's video. I think he was doing a 75-day carnivore challenge.
Okay.
And I'm like, man, when he described it, I'm like, that's so crazy. And I just heard the voice say in my head, in my heart, yeah, that's next. You're doing that. Go ahead and do that. That's what you're doing. That's what you're going to do. And where keto kind of helped, keto definitely helped. I would never say anything bad about keto. It helped. Carnivore healed.
Yeah.
And it healed the PTSD. It healed the emotional trauma that I had. It healed the memories that I held in my heart for such a long time of watching your loved ones suffer so much, and you're their sole caregiver, and you enter that suffering with them. I had horrible memories, and to the point where I would just kind of start when I heard a noise or heard a lot of people. I just would kind of jump. And so I definitely had stress and trauma responses. So it healed that. it healed that. And as soon as I realized, probably about into day 17, it was getting better. I'm like, there's no going back for me. There's no going back. And I'm about to enter my fourth year total keto and carnivore combined, but my third year totally, I'm about to complete
Awesome.
carnivore and enter my fourth in February. So it's been a journey for sure. And it's one I would not have missed for the world.
Fantastic. What do we think it is about carnivore versus keto that helped with the mental aspect so much? Do you think it's just removing the last of the inflammatory things? I've heard people sort of speculate about what it is. I think that's a big part of it. So I don't know what keto looked like for you, but do you think that was it?
Well, keto for me was like 10 cups of vegetables a day. I had IBS. I had still had horrible swelling, inflammation from that. And I was not going to reach this level of healing with any plants in my diet. I mean, for a while, I did even give up coffee. I gave up dairy. I've gone back to coffee. And what I have noticed with coffee, it's like a 5 pound difference. Instead of 120, I weigh 125 on coffee.
Okay.
That's fair with me. That is fine with me. Coming from, my highest was 315. And then when I started keto, 276, I will take 125 all day long.
The coffee doesn't mess with your mental piece, though. You can,
No, yes, I didn't feel any different on coffee than I do without it. I had the body response, just like I would on dairy. If I keep dairy in, it's another 5 pound difference, but that is actual inflammation where my joints hurt. I
yes.
don't have the stamina. Mental fog comes back, not to a great degree, but to enough that it does affect me and I notice it. And so I've been able to push the dairy out with no regrets
Yeah.
and keep it out.
I always think it's fascinating when you talk to somebody who went not just straight from standard American diet to carnivore, because that's what people in the YouTube comments usually say. You could have cut
Mhm.
out standard American junk and gone to any diet and you would have felt better. No, you cut out.
No,
That's right. It was the plants. For me
it
too.
really was.
Yes.
Yes,
I did
definitely.
5 years of carnivore. The only junk I still had in my diet was diet soda, sugar-free Jello. Yes, that is pure junk. But for 5 years, I also had the plants. And it did
Hmm.
help. Like you, I did lose weight, but there were benefits
Yeah,
I could not get until the plants left the building. Yeah, including
exactly.
yep. And I also think for the mental part, you probably were getting a lot more fat once you cut out the plants. Now you have to replace that. If you go carnivore, it's meat.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did, and I did. I replaced it with fat. I went extremely high in times of high stress for me, which I've had this year, and um, I went high fat. And I mean, I did not track. I didn't count anything because I had to so go above my comfort zone to stay emotionally well for what I was tasked to do here just a few months ago. And so I just cast off all restraint and just trusted carnivore had me. I
Yeah.
went probably 85, 90% fat
Wow.
and 4,000 calories. And I was eating all the time because I had to support my emotions. I had to support my hormones. I had to support my adrenals.
So now that people are sort of caught up to where you were at our last video,
Yeah.
what happened for the next several months?
Well, right after that, when I videoed with you a year ago, it's been basically one whole year. I weighed 125 that day and I weigh 125 today. But what happened in the year was I kept losing after that video and went to 112 pounds without changing anything, without trying to the point where I realized I was getting skeletal, but what do you do? I'm doing the same things I've always done. Why is the weight not stopping and losing? And everybody reassure it will. Well, it does. It does. And there's not a lot of information about what happens when your weight takes you so low. I did find one reel, and I'm pretty sure it was Laura's Spath, because she had gone lower than what she thought her ideal weight was and had gained some back. And it was reassuring. She's like, you will settle at your ideal weight. That's what carnivore does. It's not a weight gain process. It's not a weight loss process, but it is a weight correction process. And as long as you're working that process, it's going to work for you. It's kind of a no-brainer. You can tweak some things and do some things, but overall, trust the process. And so then I went down so low and I didn't feel good. And still didn't change anything. I didn't start eating more. I just thought, well, this is going to stabilize. Well, it did not stabilize. It shot up like 25 pounds in 6 weeks. I absolutely panicked because, my history as somebody who binged and purged and fasted and would lose massive amounts of weight quickly. I would gain, like, over 5 days. I've gained 45 pounds before. I panicked. Kelly, I can't even explain to you what happened to my mind. And so the process I went through, and it took 9 months. The process I went through was, well, carnivore worked. Maybe if I carnivore harder, that will work even better. So I was already walking 15 miles a day. I added an hour cardio daily. I added daily weight training. I did not take a break, and my weight kept shooting up. Not changing anything else, but just carnivoring harder. And also at that time, we got the news that my sister might not make it another year. It was over Christmas, so we were trying to make the most of holidays remaining. And I was still, during this time, just carnivore harder, carnivore harder. My weight continued to climb quickly. It wasn't a gradual climb, it was quickly. I just absolutely burned out my adrenals. My hair fell out. I was sleeping every other day. I could not sleep every night. I couldn't sleep for long periods. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep deeply. I was a wreck. I was a wreck almost to the point where, before keto, I was almost in that same mental condition. I was tired all the time, fatigued all the time. And I just kept thinking, I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough. Nobody's talking about this. Nobody else is having this problem. What is wrong with me? And so I just kept going harder and harder and harder until one day I just crashed. This was months. And I said, I can't do it anymore. And I thought, what do you do when carnivore doesn't work anymore? And that's what saved your life. That was your saving grace. What am I supposed to do? And I was too ashamed to reach out for help, but I didn't know what to do. And I heard that one Laura Spath reel, and she said, your body will go all the way down if you're healing, come all the way up and stabilize. But my answer was, do you trust God? Yes. Do you trust that He led you to this? Yes. Do you trust carnivore? Yes. From that day on, I said, I cut the cardio, I cut the weight training, and I cut the walking by half. And I started to eat again. That is what led me to that point. I ate more. I even ate over what I was doing. I went up to 80% fat. And that helped the fog. That helped clear the mind out. And then over, I would say, probably 3 months of that, weight just dropped. And I didn't change anything during all of this time. I just did what got me here to begin with, trusted the process when I thought carnivore was no longer working for me and I thought it was failing me or I was failing it, because that's what's happened with every single diet in the past. And I thought, how can carnivore that saved my life be like everything else? Well, the answer is it's not. But my body was changing due to stress, due to massive amounts of stress and life change. And of course, the answer is not carnivore harder. Let me just save you all the trouble. Trust the process. You can tweak some things, but don't carnivore harder. There's just, no reason to do it. Just give your body what it needs. And my body definitely needed the fat at that time. I've been able to drop it back to 65% now. But on high stress days, you better believe, and I've got some lately, that I hit the fat, even if all I have time for is a stick of butter, or like a while ago, I had a can of sardines and I must have dumped 5 tablespoons of bacon lard on top.
Yeah.
And that's my days now. So, because things are busy now.
So things are busy. Okay, we're going to get to the busy part because there's some
They're
really
busy.
good news coming. Yeah. But I think this is so important for people to hear. Obviously, if there is somebody who is, struggling with just consistency on carnivore, they're not even stringing together 7 days. Sometimes the
Yeah.
answer is carnivore a little harder because you still have
Yeah.
you still have carbs in your life. You can't know
Right.
you can't know if carnivore works until you've actually given it some time. But
Right.
we're talking about you. It had been years, no carbs, and it wasn't
No
just you were
cheats. I never had one cheat
yeah, no,
either. So it's like, where have I failed?
right.
Where have I? And I was too ashamed to ask you or anybody because I
Yeah,
thought I failed again. I failed again.
no.
I can't face this again.
Right. Meanwhile, you have your sister whose health was failing. You had all of this
Mhm.
past stress from your husband, just life becoming hard. You're
Yeah.
walking 15 miles a day, cardioing an hour a day, resistance training, not sleeping. And so the answer, I think, is not to do anything always harder, 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 whether it's carnivore or anything else. Go harder is not always going to be the win. But people like me and you, when what we're
Yeah.
doing isn't working, and I know I'm looking at some of you at home right now. I know some of them are like this too. Our answer is if this isn't good enough, maybe this will be good enough, right? And what we really need sometimes is exactly what Susan just described, a little bit of rest, some grace, some sleep, more nourishment, nutrition, and even a little beacon, which came from you to you in the form of Laura Spath. To me, it came
Yeah.
from a lady named Cynthia. When I went through, I lost down to my current weight, and then I had a rebound as well, Susan Boykin, back in
Yeah.
2009. Yes, I did, and I panicked and wanted to head back to the gym. And Cynthia
Mhm.
was my beacon of light that said, hey, this is normal. Keep doing what has been working. You don't need to go harder on anything. Just chill, babe. So
Yeah.
I think all of that is so good for people to hear.
And I really had to accept that to get back to how I felt my optimal best on carnivore, I might have to gain a little more. And
Mhm.
I had to just say, that's okay. That's okay because I got into it for my health to begin with. If I am going to stay at 135, that's fine with me. That's fine with me. I'd actually gone down too low at 112 anyway. And so I did stay at 135 and 137 for quite a while until my body trusted that, okay, food is coming, fat is coming. She's she's not out to try to kill us with cardio. And so
Yes.
that was just, but it was a 9 month process. But I slowed it down by trying to go harder. I
Yes.
slowed everything down because I crashed every system, and it wasn't pretty. So
Right. I'm
so
so
just taking
sorry.
that time to stop everything and eat, and saying if I gain, I gain, but I have to heal again. I have to put my body back in a place where it will heal again.
Yes. I'm so sorry that you went through that alone. I really
Oh,
am. That when I went through it, I also had already shared publicly all of my before and afters. And like
yeah,
you come on this channel and you've gotten all the accolades for where it is, and then the scale starts going up. You're like, no, no, no. No, I've already put this out into the world. It can't go up now. It is,
that's right.
it inspires a lot of panic. I really empathize with you on that right now because I went through that too. You know what? Something I've noticed during my times of slight regain or even long stalls is sometimes that's when my body would also be getting rid of some loose skin. So like you lose, and I haven't even talked about this with you. I don't know if you've even found this to be true, but I would get where it was like, oh gosh, I look kind of gaunt and thin. I just keep doing what I'm doing though. I mean, keep doing it.
Yeah.
Things would then tighten up during that phase. Did you notice anything like that?
Yes, on the weight gain, I
Yes.
got up to about 135, and I noticed my skin was much, much, much tighter. But not only that, I was getting muscle definition everywhere, everywhere. So I'm like, okay, everything is just kind of reshifting, recompositioning. and falling in pleasant places. So I couldn't really be too upset about that, except for the fact I just think as women, we have this love hate obsession with a number on a scale or the number of your clothes. And when I was 112, I was in a size zero and they were loose. I mean, that was way too small for me. I looked gaunt and I looked skeletal. And I did not look healthy, to be quite honest. It's funny that as I started going back up the other way, people were like, you look more like you're glowing, you look healthier, you look this. And I'm like, but the scale. And it's like, okay, that had to go too. I put the scale away. I just plain put the scale away. And I used to have the food measure because I eat a lot and I always did. That was never a problem. My calories never crept up. They were just always high. I didn't have weight creep due to calorie creep. My calories were always extreme. And to get this to go back the other way and stop, I had to go even higher than that, but I put everything away. I quit tracking. I turned my mind off because I was starting to get back in diet mentality. For me, that is such an obsession and compulsive behavior that I could not let that back in. So everything went away until I could trust myself to go, okay, this is working. I'll look once a week, or I'll put in carb manager 1 meal a week or something, because my meals are basically the same anyway. And so I would check in, but I wouldn't obsess about it. So all of that kind of had to move out of my brain as well. And I don't know if that's just part of my process. I didn't have these things when I was a year ago, but because of the way up and down of this past year, emotionally and mentally and physically, it just took me on a different journey. But carnivore stayed steady. Carnivore held the course for me. So I can't say enough. It was my saving grace a couple of years back, and it today, every day since, it will always be.
Amazing. I I think a lot of us women, when the scale does have a bounce up, especially women who have lost a lot, and you feel like, haha, I have found the answer. When we see it creep up, I think the panic is that we're going to return to where we were because it was such a bad
Mhm.
time. I know for me, like I was so overweight that the idea of returning to that. But one thing Cynthia said to me was, you didn't get obese in the first place doing carnivore. You may have a bounce up, but she reminded me, you are looking good. I also, during that time of weight gain, things were tightening up. I couldn't really say I looked more defined, but I had less just loose hanging skin. Just trust this is temporary and needed at the moment. And I
And
really,
that's the fear. That's
yeah,
the fear. Of course, I'm going to go right back to where I was, but not just the obesity, but the unhealthiness of that. And also just the depression of that. I knew I would go back into despair. And if carnivore didn't work, nothing was going to work. I had tried it all. So I was looking at, if this fails me or I fail it, it was going to be a death sentence for me. And so that was the panic and that was the fear. And I lived in that for months because I didn't dare reach out to anybody. And I should have. I will say this, there is nothing like that kind of condemnation that we put ourselves under that will keep you isolated and keep you from community and keep you from reaching out for the help that really I could have had with just one conversation with you. And instead, I just suffered alone for months.
yeah. I think that's also important for people to know. Just when things feel impending, our I know my gut instinct too is hide.
Yeah.
But honestly, it is the best thing because I know we could have really talked out, oh gosh, girl, I went through that too. Right. And so I'm glad that you were able to find that, even though it was through a video with someone.
Everything normalized. And my journey over the last 2 months has been horrific. And carnivore stayed steady for me. I didn't have any ill effects from what I was going through. It kept me stable at a very unstable time. And so I just upped my fat on stress days, and it did what it's supposed to do. It did what it's supposed to do. And then I leveled completely out over the last 3 months, I guess. And back to my what my body decided my weight is 125. And I'm 5'5.5", nearly 5'6". That's fine. That's perfect.
Is it okay if I'm sure people are wondering what has been so horrific in the last couple of months? I don't know if you feel comfortable to
It
say.
No, it is okay. I was thinking about that today because in every interview I did, people know my sister started me on my keto journey. Um, my sister died last month. Her health started to decline. She had a stroke August 1st, and then she continued to have strokes. But she lingered a long time and she was on an hourly med schedule, which meant somebody had to be with her every hour of the day. I took nights, overnights, where I set my alarm to wake up every hour on the hour to administer meds into a tube into her stomach. And I had such flashbacks because that was my husband. And but what do? You love demands that you do the hard things for the people that you love. And so I did it. But this is what I can say. Those two experiences were so similar and so heartbreaking. But I had carnivore this time, and I could properly deal with the emotions, and I could properly compartmentalize that, okay, I need to do this and I feel this way about it, and I could process it, and I knew that I needed to eat. I made sure I had plenty of food, even if it was grab and go, if it was hard boiled eggs and a stick of butter. I just made sure that I was supporting my hormones and supporting my emotions so I could give literally everything I had to her the last 2 weeks of her life. And I'm so grateful that I was doing carnivore at that time and I could give everything within me for that. And it has been hard. It's been a hard period of mourning, but something else happened around that time too. Would you like to talk about that?
I would. All right. First of all, I have talked to you through your sister's illness and passing, and I know everybody here, we're all so sorry because I know the two of you were very close. So
Yes.
there was the grief, you nourished yourself, and then there is also some hope that comes out of this time period as well too. Talk to us, Susan. What's going on?
Well, during this time, this is such a God thing. It is such a God thing. We're still reeling. I walk every day and I go to the same park, and there's a man that I noticed a year ago, and he noticed me a year ago. But it wasn't timing, and um a couple of months before my sister got really sick, we were talking and walking every day and just friends. But once my sister got sick, he started to pray for me every day. And then as the days went on, we just got closer and just had a bond. And by the time my sister passed, we realized something more was happening. Um, it was the day after my sister's funeral. Some would say this is horrible timing, but it's God's timing. We're at the park walking, and he said, I think I love you. I said, really? I think I love you too. And we've been praying that God would take it away. It's like, no, no. He was praying, I can't have this, don't want this, don't do this. And I was praying the same way. And it got stronger. And it was three 3 days after the funeral, he asked me to marry him.
Oh,
I am engaged. I am engaged, and I will. But by the time this airs, I will be married because the wedding is Friday. It
amazing.
is Friday, so
Oh,
it's been, it has been the deepest grief alongside the greatest joy, and so I've chosen the joy.
mm,
And carnivore helped me choose the joy. My sister would want me to choose the joy. God has brought great celebration from sadness. And I don't want to miss a moment of it. And David is my fiance. He doesn't want to miss a moment of it. And so um, it seems fast, and maybe it is fast, but it is so all God. So that's my big news.
I'm so happy for you. And I've seen photos online of you in a gorgeous dress. I assume that's what you'll be wearing Friday.
Well, that's another whole
Oh
thing
no.
because I I did buy the dress and it's beautiful. But I don't know that my image of myself has changed enough to feel like I deserve that dress.
Oh,
And so
sweet.
I still have that, a little bit of that. It's being healed too. I definitely just decided I deserve the man because nobody deserves him, so I may as well have him. But the dress is a whole nother, it's hard. And I know my best friend went with me, and that was a whole nother thing, not being able to share any of this with my sister, except I know she's watching. And so my best friend went with me and she said, you just never changed your mental picture of yourself. And you don't see yourself as being deserving of this, as being able to have this even for one day. And so that's kind of given me something to work on too. Because I'm just jeans and t-shirts all day and I always will be. I'm a cowgirl. I'm a Texan and I did at least buy a gorgeous pair of boots to wear with the dress. So, that makes the dress okay. But everybody's like, did you enjoy dress shopping? No, no. We went to this couture place and there was a man that literally had to get me in the dress, get me out of the dress. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so outside my comfort zone.
Yeah.
So I was like, just that'll work. He said, this just came in. It's not being made anymore. And it's exactly in your size. We don't have to alter it.
Susan, the
I'm like, I'll
dress
take it.
is stunning on you. Did you see, if you didn't, it's okay, but last Saturday, a video came out with Anna Maria, and she talked about how she had feelings of unworthiness and she
Hmm.
felt like God was truly speaking and saying, now imagine if I were to say to my own earthly father, hey, daddy, I really do like this dress, but I'm not worthy of it.
Yeah.
How my own daddy would react to that. He would say,
Ex-
you know, sweetheart, I love you. It's beautiful. I would be so happy for my princess to wear that. He really would.
Exactly.
And I can just imagine your father knowing the love and care that you gave to your husband, the love and care that you've given to your sister, your gorgeous heart, and the work that you have done to take care of yourself, and the fact that you are a child of God covered in the blood. Sister, I think you ought to wear that dress and just see yourself through God's eyes and through David's eyes. And if not,
Oh,
for heaven's sakes, through the rest of us who will see you and think, oh, that's a dress fit for the child of God. I am just so proud of you and thankful that you're willing to share all of this because there is good, there is bad, and there is also ugly. And I've lived the body dysmorphia where you can't see it in a mirror, the
yeah.
change. And it's really
Yeah.
hard to allow yourself to say, you know what? I am really blessed to be where I am in this moment, and I'm going to feel honored to wear that dress. And I hope you will.
I will. And times of stress, I've noticed, not just for me, but I think for a lot of women, in times of stress, the self-talk needs to be really, you need to be aware of how you're talking to yourself and how you're thinking within yourself. And just to make myself aware of, okay, think about what you're thinking about right now, because your self-talk is about to lead you to a place you don't want to be. And so just to be aware of that. And you need the mental health and emotional health and the hormonal health to support all of that. David's not a carnivore, unfortunately, and he's a jogger, Kelly. Oh my gosh, he jogs. And so he eats all the carbs. I had to make potatoes yesterday. I made shrimp and tenderloin, but I had to make potatoes. I'm like, I feel like a heretic. I'm making potatoes in my house. But he's very supportive and he's been encouraging and I'm not going to stop, not going to have a potato. So he has seen me take the bites out of the butter and put the butter in the coffee and I'm like, I'm doing it for my health.
Yes.
So
Yeah. And I'm sure he has heard where you've come from, and he would never want you to return to that. Same with my man. I definitely do. He eats carbs at our house. He fixes a lot of them, but I fix it some too. But he is supportive, and there's no way he wants me to return to the mental and physical state that I was in. So supportive, we'll take it, even if they aren't
We'll
carnivore.
take it.
They might come around. We never know.
He said he's willing to try it. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll ease you in slowly.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Does he at least eat meat, Susan?
Loves meat, loves meat. I made him a big old tenderloin and shrimp yesterday, and he loved it, took some home. I mean, he just has to thinks he has to have potatoes. We're gonna work on that too.
I hear you.
Mhm.
Well, at least they both are getting some really good nutrition along with that lousy old lame potato. That's good.
Exactly.
Susan, I'm so glad you came back. I'm glad that you shared the mountaintop with
Oh,
us last time and today, but that you also let us know that there was valley between. And if people take away nothing else, I hope it's the message of reach out when you think you're the only one going through something. And you'll probably find that there's a whole community of people who say, "Oh, yeah, me too." And there's a lot of power in me too.
exactly.
Thanks, Susan. I love you, babe. I can't wait to see the
Thank you.
photos. Share them from
I
front.
love you too.
Yes. All right, I'll talk to you soon. I'm gonna head down the mountain now.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.